Thanks, Jeff. Good afternoon. Hey, my sister's here. If you were here yesterday, something really, for me at least, shocking happened. That story I told about my son, as soon as I said his name, he was standing in the doorway. And his hands were like this. Like, really? You're talking about me? And for a split second, I thought, oh no, I'm in trouble. And then all of a sudden he was gone. Well, after I walked into the cafeteria, he was having lunch with my dad. My son is working with my dad this summer in construction. And I said, okay, what do I owe you? And he said, what are you talking about? I said, you didn't hear what I was talking about? I said, no. He saw Papa, my dad, saw me standing in the doorway and yanked me to the side. So he was standing like this, but he was getting, I thought it was directed at me. So we'll see who walks by the doorway today. So we've been talking this week about the whole of me, our power to inspire, and how spiritual growth is growing in connection. And God has created us to be connected to our whole self. So the person I want to be, the will I have to be that, is connected to the way I think about it, how I feel about it, how I feel about myself. How I feel, how I think is connected to what I actually do. What I actually do is connected to the effect it has on others, and then the effect I have on others is actually connected to how they see me. In our broken world, we mostly, in our society at least, value how people see me. And so we worry about one segment of our being while everything else is in disarray. And this morning, I just want to talk about maybe one thing in a negative way. We usually look up to the people who seem to be the most competent, people who are really good at doing what they do. There's all kinds of self-help books out there about being an expert. Does anybody know, I don't know if it's accurate, but it's a common thought, how many hours you need to spend in order to become an expert at one thing or another? Have you heard this? 10,000. 10,000 hours, right? Who has the time? But there are experts all around the world. One day I was walking through a library once and I realized I was looking for a book, and I realized that there were thousands and thousands of books, and it all of a sudden dawned on me, someone had dedicated their life to that book. And I couldn't care less. Someone had become an expert in that one thing and poured themselves into it. They had spent their 10,000 hours. They were great at it. We usually pride ourselves in being great at something, hopefully at least one thing. And there is kind of this pop culture thing that it should come easy. You're great at something because, that's what you're made to do, so it just comes naturally. But if anybody's watching the NBA finals right now, you'll notice that LeBron is not having an easy time. He's having a very difficult time, because NBA championships do not come easily. But professional achievements don't come easily as well. I mean, sometimes people think, oh, it must have been so easy for you, but you worked hard at this. You sacrificed for this. You gave your life for this. And so sometimes what we do, I think, is we just esteem people who are very competent. I think there's a problem with that, and here's why. It sometimes is very easy to stay competent at what you are comfortable with. And being in your comfort zone sometimes is the worst place you can be. Some of us have very, very small comfort zones. We don't like to do certain things. We don't like to be put in certain situations, and so we constantly run back into a safe place where we're good, where we're competent, where others can see us and esteem us as being someone of value. The problem with that is that trend makes it so that our comfort zone becomes usually smaller and smaller and smaller, and pretty soon we're living lives in the realm of the smallest space possible, wherever I can find the most comfort. And I believe that God has created us to actually have adventure, to be actually connected to things that maybe are outside of our comfort zone. And so I kind of ask myself every once in a while, Jesse, did you do something that scared you this week? Because that informs me of whether or not I'm growing in connection. One of my mentors actually shared with me the whole competency chemistry, character. Have you guys heard of that before? When you're trying to build a team? Well, obviously they got to be good at what they're doing. But they also have to be in good connection with the people around them. But then the character thing is really hard to see. How do you gauge that? I've added a fourth one for my work with people, and it's called calling. Do you know your calling? I mean, this is Mission Week, and the hospital actually has a mission statement, but what about yours? The word calling we've kind of used in a secular sense now. We call it a vocation. And most people think that that's just their career, their job. But vocation, Latin voca, it's the calling. What is your calling in life? And for the most part, sometimes I think we mistake our calling for our comfort zone. So wherever we're most comfortable, oh, that must be what I'm good at, what I'm supposed to do. But when I read Scripture, God has a calling for people that is never telling them to reside within their comfort zone. It's always to step out and do something that they can't do on their own. It's always something that they're called to do that actually scares them. When I was asked to lead out as a camp director, I had gone to summer camp once in my life. I was in the 3rd grade. That was all of my experience. And so my first summer, I was scared to death because people were going to drop off their children to me, and I was supposed to figure out how to have fun with them and how to keep them safe at the same time. And I found people who were good at something that I wasn't good at. I found people who were good at archery, good at paintball, good at movie making. I found people who were really excited to share with people their comfort zone and use that as a way to mentor young people. We had a ropes course installed at our camp one summer, and I had no clue about ropes whatsoever. So I called around and I found somebody, and her name was Anne. Anne had got her master's in outdoor education, and her comfort zone was outside of my comfort zone. Anne could live out in the fields and the mountains all by herself and grub and start fires without matches and all the kind of things I can't do. But she thought our ropes course was really manageable and really safe, and she was going to run it. Anne had this thing where ropes were not about swinging and flying and falling. It wasn't even about achieving some type of, athletic thing. For her, the ropes course was really kind of a metaphor for life. It was a way to teach a kid how to listen to instruction. It was a way to teach a kid how to overcome their fear. It was a way for kids around them to learn how to be an encourager. And so Anne had this saying. She said, success is not completing the ropes course. Success is being outside your comfort zone. I thought that was awesome. That success is not looking all good, doing what you're good at, showing everyone how competent you are. But success is stepping outside of your comfort zone. To me, it's even a better definition for faith. Faith is being willing to take a step into something that you're not sure about, but you think it's worth it. So one day I walk into the woods. We had something we called a giant swing. You would get all harnessed up, and then your friends would pull you up about 25 feet face forward, and then you'd be dangling there. 2 cables holding you secure, and one little tether which your friends had pulled you up on. And then you would pull a little red cord and go swinging through the forest backwards. Pretty fun. We had another thing called the vine crossing. And all this was about 40-foot span between 2 trees, about 20 feet high. And there were ropes above hanging, each rope further and further from the next. And so as you went across the vine crossing, you could maybe hold the first rope to get to the second rope. But man, to get to the 3rd rope, you had to really stretch. But to get to the 4th rope, you had to let go and be ropeless for at least a second. So one day I walk into the woods, and Anne's in charge. And Anne is there, and she's coaching a young boy, about 10 years old. His name is Grant. And Grant is above her and above the team. And Grant has just ascended the stairway, so to speak, on the tree itself, and he's holding onto that first rope. And I can hear Anne going, "Good job, Grant, awesome." Hey, everyone, let's encourage Grant. And you can hear all the kids yelling, yeah, Grant, awesome, good job. But I can kind of tell Grant has maybe been there for a while because their voices aren't as encouraging in tone as you would think. So it's something that they feel like they've repeated, like, yay, Grant, good. All right, you can do it. Yay, awesome. So I walk over and I say, okay, hey. And so I join in. Hey, Grant, awesome job. Woo! Hey, Anna, how's it going? Oh, it's going good. She kind of just glances at me. Okay, Grant, so what you're going to do is you're going to just adjust your feet a little bit because you might have that foot in the wrong place. So try it. Move your foot here. Okay, good, good. Now, Grant, you're going to try and grab that second rope now. And I hear Grant. And Grant sounds like someone who is outside of his comfort zone. Grant says, yeah, I'm good because I came up here and that was good enough for me. Remember, I just told you all I was going to do was climb the tree. And Ann says, oh, Grant, you know what, though? Here's the thing. You're outside your comfort zone, right? And he's like, yeah, I am. She goes, then guess what? You're successful right now, Grant. Good job. Let's cheer on Grant because he's so successful. And everyone, yay, Grant. Good job. You're successful. So there's Grant. She goes, okay, Grant, you ready? He goes, yeah, no, I'm not ready. And so I'm going, Anna, how long has he been up here for? She goes, I don't know, a few minutes. I go, oh, okay, well, you're in charge. And so I just wait. And so Ann starts to coach Grant a little bit more, maybe with a little bit more conviction, a little bit more weight and authority to her voice. Grant, here's what I want you to do. I want you to reach out for that second rope. And Grant says, no, I can't do that. I'm sorry. She says, wait, Grant, are you outside of your comfort zone? Yes, I am really outside of my comfort zone. Then Grant, you are already being successful. Good job. And so I whisper to Ann, I say, hey, Ann, maybe that's good enough, Maybe he's done enough. And Ann completely ignores me. Now here's the thing, Ann's in charge of the ropes course, but I'm in charge of Ann. I'm her boss. And so I go, okay, well, I'll politely ignore that you ignored me just for a second. And I stood there, and all of a sudden, I felt a drip. I looked around, and it was Waianae in the summer. It doesn't rain there most of the time. And I looked around, and I saw Grant's face. And Grant was shaking and crying. Now for me, that's not cool. I mean, you're going to put a kid up in a tree and not let him come down and let him cry in front of his friends. I mean, that just sounds mean. Doesn't it? Yeah. So that's what I thought. Walked over to Ann and I said, Ann, he's crying. I don't want anyone else to know. I was like, let him down. And Ann looked at me and didn't say a word, but gave me that look that you women know how to give so well. And I was just going to lose it. How could you do this to somebody? And one of the things I've learned actually is in ropes courses like this, in outdoor ed, sometimes when young people are afraid of the element that they're in, or element they're on and the environment they're in, it's not really they're afraid of heights, they're afraid of being embarrassed, what have you. It's not the immediate moment. It's actually triggering all kinds of things that they've experienced in their life growing up. And so that same feeling of fear reminds them of another time they were afraid, which is what they really are afraid of. And so the ropes course isn't like, testing your ability on the ropes course. The ropes course is actually bringing up how you as a human being have connected all kinds of feelings to events and to relationships. And so I'm about to go DEFCON 3 on Ann and just give her a break for the whole day and take over the ropes course. When all of a sudden, there's this scream. Grant, on the ropes course, yells out, God is with me! And then all of a sudden just lunges at that second rope. Now, when Grant moves, Anne has to move because he's on belay. And when she moves, the rest of his encouragement team who's holding the rope, acting like they're actually helping, but they are. We take care of the rope because the rope takes care of us. They have to move too. And since I'm in that line of people who are his supporters, we're all moving with Grant. Grant goes full speed, yelling, "God is with me!" And here's what happens. Grant is weeping up there, but all of us start to cry too. Why? It's not because Grant all of a sudden was going to be the champion of the vine crossing and have a record time. In fact, he might have the record time for most time up there and completing it. Why all of a sudden we were touched by Grant and inspired by Grant is because we saw a young man who was facing his fears, even when there were some of us like me who wanted him to go back to his comfort zone, who wanted him to say, "Okay, well, that's enough. You did enough for today. Get back into your safe place." Because Grant, for some reason, had this idea that he didn't have to be afraid because he had a connection with God. Now, as cute as that might sound for a 10-year-old up on a ropes course, for me, that's a huge lesson in the courses I'm on right now. Or whether or not I'm living my calling. Not whether or not I'm comfortable, but whether or not I have the faith to take a step outside of my comfort zone. I don't know what that means for you. It might mean having a courageous conversation today. It might mean volunteering in a way that your gifts can be used in an environment that you're unsure of. It might mean maybe getting connection with some of your past dreams and desires and wishes. Some of the things that you knew you were supposed to do that you kind of tabled because it was too risky now that you're an adult. Because the truth is, God, I believe, is not so concerned about how competent we are. That's our concern. I think God is concerned about what we're connected to. Are we connected to each other? Are we connected to Him? And then what I truly believe in all my heart is really what this world needs is people of character. And character doesn't come from how people perceive you. Character doesn't come from getting better at what you're good at. I believe character comes from stepping out in faith into places where you can really grow. And so my challenge, I guess, for all of us today is may this hospital be successful. May you as a team be able to step outside of your comfort zones because you're answering the call that God has placed on this institution to reach this community. And then as individuals, may we remember that God has called us to be connected to Him and to each other. Would you bow your heads with me and pray? God, you've given us a will, the ability to decide. You've given us a mind to think and a heart to feel. You've given us a body to act and to do. You've given us relationships where we can affect others and others can affect us. And may we grow, because some have planted, some have watered, but it is you who gives us that miracle of life. And Lord, may we hear the call that you have for us, calling us to take steps outside of our comfort zone, because you will never leave us or forsake us. May we always remember that God is with the whole of me. In Jesus' name, amen.